Alright, we're talking about some crazy moon landing conspiracies.
Are they real? Are they not? A lot of outlandish claims are going to be made today, so your job is to either prove us right or wrong in the comments.
Like you always do. I guess it's a typical day.
Yeah, roast us, see what you got.
Let's get right into it. One of the biggest questions on a lot of people's minds is, why haven't we been back to the moon? There were a handful of missions from 1969 to 1972, and then that was that. Yeah, we went a few times, nothing left to see here. Now, NASA has said they've just turned their attention to other projects, but really? We don't want to do any archaeological digs up there, see if we can find any signs of maybe alien life having visited at some point? You know, build some crap up there maybe? Nothing? Interest in exploring the moon has basically dropped off completely at this point, and that's led some to believe that we never even made it up there in the first place.
Okay, next up we have the fact that all of the original footage of the Apollo 11 moon landing taken by the NASA organization somehow got erased. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to call BS on this one, because first of all, how the hell do you just accidentally erase the footage of one of the most historically important moments of all time? And second of all, if the footage was actually lost or erased, how did it not become an international scandal, ending with somebody publicly losing their job and being collectively condemned by the entire country? In 2006, NASA said the tapes were lost, and then in 2009, they claimed that the tapes had ended up in a pile with 200,000 others that became degaussed, meaning magnetically erased. I mean, you're kidding, right? The tapes were then restored by experts, meaning that if someone were to claim that the tapes are fake because of the fact that the video has clear markers of alteration, all NASA would have to do is claim that those alterations were necessary in order to restore the video. I'm just not buying it.
Another detail many moon landing deniers point to is the Neil Armstrong reflection discrepancy. Allow me to explain. In this iconic photo of Buzz Aldrin on the moon, eagle-eyed conspiracy theorists noticed something quite peculiar: Neil Armstrong's reflection in Aldrin's visor. That's not the peculiar part, I'm getting to it. The plot thickens when they realize Armstrong's hands are seemingly empty, prompting the question, where on Earth, or shall I say, where on the moon, is Armstrong's camera? Did Armstrong even take the photo at all? NASA insists he did, but it doesn't look like it. If not him, then who though? Did E.T. decide to snap a pic for them? Or was this whole thing shot on a soundstage in California? Or of course, there's the possibility that NASA must have some snazzy, cameraless photography technology up their sleeves. Now, some people say it's just a case of perspective and timing. Armstrong's camera was positioned in a way that it just wasn't captured in the reflection, but I don't think Hannah's next point is gonna be as easy to explain.
Next up, apparently not only does NASA spread misinformation, but they also distribute disingenuous artifacts. In 1963, after NASA supposedly successfully completed the Apollo 11 mission, 3 of the astronauts visited the Netherlands, during which time the United States ambassador accompanying the trio gave the Dutch Prime Minister what he claimed was a moon rock, but has since been identified as nothing more than petrified wood that has never been anywhere near the surface of the moon. When this information came out, the US Embassy was unable to explain why that would have happened or how, but they claim they were investigating. Whatever that means. None of you should be surprised to learn that the supposed investigation went absolutely nowhere, and to this day there is no reasoning behind why the Netherlands would have been given a fraudulent artifact once valued at $500,000 US, but now valued at around $70.
Here's another hot take. What if the moon landing really was a success, but there are just details we haven't been told? Maybe on that last mission to the moon in 1972, they saw something that made them never want to come back. We may look at images of the moon and see it as nothing but an empty mass of rock and sand, but there's a whole side of the moon humans have never set foot on, the dark side. And we really aren't 100% sure what could be lurking over there. There's a good chance it's just more of the same boring crap we have on the light side, but could there also be an entire species of creatures dwelling in the dark craters and recesses of the moon? Could these creatures have slithered from their shadows to give a grave warning to the astronauts of the Apollo 17 mission to never return? To Buzz off? Possible.
Next up, we have the death of Gus Grissom, an incredibly popular astronaut who was an incredibly outspoken critic of NASA's space program during his time working for the agency. While Grissom did become the third person to fly into space, he still didn't believe that NASA had either the knowledge nor the technology to make it all the way to the moon, an opinion he wasn't afraid to share with the public. While training for the Apollo 1 mission, after communications failed during a test, Grissom stated, "How are we going to get to the moon if we can't talk between 2 or 3 buildings?" He also picked a lemon from his backyard and tied it to the spacecraft as a joke, saying that the technology was a lemon and not nearly advanced enough to make it to the moon. In another controversial move, Gus held an impromptu, unauthorized press conference criticizing the space program. Many believe that because of all of this, NASA, in collaboration with the CIA, decided to take him out. During an underground simulation, a spark underneath Grissom's seat ignited a fire that claimed the lives of himself, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee. Some people believe that the 3 men actually died after cyanide gas was released into the cabin to kill them, and that the fire was used as a cover-up, but as always, I want to know what you think.
Here's another fishy part of the whole moon landing thing, all those sick pics Buzz and Neil took up there. Some of them look really a little too gorgeous and pristine. Now, it's not like you couldn't get quality pictures back in the late 60s. I mean, like, have you seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? That movie looks like it could have come out last year. But for 2 astronauts untrained in the ways of the camera, having just risked their lives flying up to space, who have then just set foot on a place no one has ever set foot on before, out in space, like with all that excitement, all those nerves, somehow they're gonna snap these cinema quality pictures. I've looked through old family photo albums. Even home pictures from the 90s look like junk. So my point is, what's the deal with that?
Speaking of the Space Odyssey, what if what we are all thinking right now is true and the moon landing was really faked? Because of course we are all thinking that right now. Well, how the hell would they have done it? The answer to that question is actually quite simple. Stanley Kubrick, you know, the guy who directed A Space Odyssey as well as The Shining. Well, many people believe that the guy not only directed award-winning movies, but also internationally deceiving publicity stunts as well. Shortly after footage of the moon landing was released, Kubrick got to work on The Shining, which was absolutely chock full of references to the Apollo 11 manned mission to the moon. The first and most obvious being that the character Danny is wearing an Apollo 11 sweater in the film. The second being room 237, which didn't actually exist in the hotel where the movie was filmed, but was added in reference to the moon, which sits just about 237 miles from Earth. Room 237 is also the room in which Kubrick supposedly staged the moon landing in the NASA headquarters. As we heard James say, clearly he had the technology. We saw it in Space Odyssey, so this is probably just Space Odyssey Part 2, another day at work for the guy. You can also see Tang cans, which are a space food made for astronauts in the movie, and the carpets in the movie have a pattern matching that of the launch pad in which Apollo 11 took off from. Did they though? Did they?
On any movie set, you also need some props, right? For example, Hannah and I's wardrobe here at Most Amazing Top 10 is carefully curated and tailored on the daily. Well, one photograph taken on the moon shows a rock with a very intriguing marking on it, something that looks a lot like the letter C. You see, some folks scoured photos taken on the Apollo 11 mission and were surprised to see the C, so they analyzed what they saw and decided this one rock must have been a fake. See if you can see this C in this photograph they saw. I certainly see what they saw. That's a C to me. So the question is, how did the great Stanley Kubrick, of all people, manage to let something like this slip? It's almost a bigger mystery in itself, right? I mean, he must have been pretty spaced out. He had spent all this time working on 2001, after all, which came out the year before the Apollo 11 mission. Maybe he was just bored of all the science fiction stuff and got a bit lazy. I can see it.
So, if the moon landing really is fake, was faked, why was it faked? Well, there's a few reasons as to why the United States would have wanted the rest of the world to believe that they were capable of becoming the first nation to make it to the moon. One, of course, being bragging rights, or in political terms, national prestige. A demonstration of the nation's amazing scientific and engineering capabilities that could be used as an intimidation tactic during the Cold War. It also incentivized foreign countries to invest in and become allies to the United States, so a bit of a win-win there for them. Not to mention there was also a massive amount of political pressure on the US after President John F. Kennedy challenged its greatest minds to succeed in sending a man to the moon before the end of the decade. They made it just in time. Coincidence? You tell me, but here's the thing. You're going to tell me that no mission prior to Apollo 11 was a success, but all of a sudden, a team of 3 astronauts make it to the moon and back completely unharmed? I don't know. It seems pretty far-fetched if you ask me.
Do you feel sane?
Yeah, I don't see how I could.
Well, let us know your thoughts down below. Did we go to the moon?
It's
Did we
another
not?
rhyme. Mixtape, Most Amazing Top 10. Coming out soon.
That is not a lie.
Did they go to the moon?
Let us know.
Mic drop.